What is up, everybody, and welcome back to a special Labor Day weekend episode of the Primetime Preview here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all of the sports. Mr. K here with you. We got an eventful sport weekend on the calendar, so let me be your remote control and tell you what you can watch this weekend. We got a lot of good sports coming out. Starting, of course, week one with college football. We got a pretty good game tonight out in Boulder that we'll dive into. We'll get to check the top matchups of the weekend. 3 big ranked versus ranked games. Plus, we'll give you an FCS game of the week. So that's what Larry and Taryn will be talking about tomorrow morning on 3 and Out. We have 5 super watching baseball on Sunday. Monday, actually. Monday's going to be roster fans, so big time baseball calendar. Not a great weekend on the baseball docket, but we'll find some food nuggets for you. WNBA is winding down. The regular season just a couple weeks to go. With one team to be in the big center of the spotlight this weekend to really change their playoff fate. We'll get you ahead to the 3 to watch in MLS, including the League Cup final this weekend out in the Northwest between 2 MLS teams. English Premier League, why one team desperately needs a win this week, but they just keep losing in the dramatic fashion. Talk NWSL, rough week, rough day today for the U.S. men out in the U.S. Open. NASCAR begins with the playoffs. We'll talk IndyCar, Formula 1, and rugby. We have Rugby World Cup going on. Next Primetime Preview. Nice for free. Your direct feed for all the sports to see. What's going on, everybody? Ricky K here from iSports Radio, your direct feed for all of the sports. Great to have you aboard this week. Of course, this is going to be, if you've missed it throughout the portion of the last couple of weeks, this is going to be the last installment of the Primetime Preview as it's currently constructed. Due to my work schedule, actually, we're going to be shifting over my appearances on the network. You will see myself with Adam Karnick every Monday night, starting Labor Day night here on the network, 8 o'clock Eastern time, in the opening series. I'm excited for that because we're going to get to, of course, recap all the great events of the weekend. So we go from previewing to recapping. And, of course, we'll look ahead to the big game Monday night for college football, Bill Belichick's North Carolina coaching debut, which should be a lot of fun. So you'll catch me there. But we got to get into some previewing first. I want to remind you, of course, you can follow us on X, TikTok, YouTube, at iSports Radio. iSportsRadio.com is the place to go. You can look up all of our shows, all of our hosts, our mission statement here at the network, all that fun stuff. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. And please leave a comment throughout the show. We're on YouTube, Twitch, X, whatever you're listening to. What are you looking forward to this weekend? What are your predictions in sports this weekend? So much to get into and so much to talk about as well. You can follow me on X at Rickinator555, at ISR_New York as well. Just put out some videos about Rutgers and Syracuse. Rutgers last night getting a win over Ohio, but it wasn't pretty. Ohio actually did a really good job. And Syracuse looking ahead to their matchup tomorrow against Tennessee out in Atlanta. So it's college football season in full swing. As we said, it started actually last night, week 1, and some pretty notable games last night before we look ahead to tomorrow and tonight as well. Boise State getting blown out by South Florida. Byron Brown was excellent at quarterback. And you've got to look at USF now as a team that could really make a statement out in the American. They didn't just blow out a number 25 ranked team. They dominated a number 25 ranked team. That was a really impressive performance by them. And then also last night, Nebraska getting the win over Cincinnati 20-17 out in Arrowhead. And what that game means, when you look at Nebraska's schedule, Dylan Raiola played extremely well, 243 yards, 33 of 42, 2 touchdowns. Nebraska only plays 2 ranked teams on the schedule as of right now. They play Michigan at home at the end of the month, and in September. And then they go to Penn State, their second to last game of the season. There is a real good chance Nebraska can have a really great season, and that kind of got they had to start with a win against Cincinnati to do that. So Matt Rule's got a chance to do something really special that Nebraska hasn't seen in a long time. So you talk about eventful week 1 wins so far. USF and Nebraska really have a chance to jump to start their season. USF, it might be a little bit tougher. They do play Florida and Miami in the non-conference, but you never know. That's the beauty of college football and sometimes what it can provide. So we have a couple matchups on the docket tonight that we'll dive into before we look into tomorrow. And it starts with Georgia Tech against Colorado. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific kickoff on ESPN. And this is going to be a really good matchup because you look at Georgia Tech, and this is a team where the ACC, I won't say it's up in the air, but Georgia Tech did get 2 first-place votes in the ACC preseason poll. They returned their starting quarterback in Haynes King. They returned their starting running back in Jamal Haynes. So when you always have your starting quarterback and your starting running back back, it really helps the continuity of the offense. And this is a chance for Georgia Tech to make another big statement. Brent Key last year took his team to Dublin. They beat Florida State. At the time, it looked like a big win, but of course, Florida State had a dreadful year. But it would be big for Georgia Tech to have 2 successful openers going off to last year, and then this year going on the road. Boulder's a tough place to play, especially with Dion as the coach. If you can get a win there, that'd be pretty impressive for Georgia Tech. As for Colorado, Caden Salter, the Liberty transfer, is going to be the starting quarterback, replacing Shedeur Sanders. And, of course, Deion Sanders, offseason battling some health issues. We hope he's doing okay. With a win tonight, he would go to 3-0 in openers. Remember, Colorado's played some tough openers. They played TCU a couple of years ago. So that was really one of their marquee first games of the year. But for the Buffaloes, it's a chance to the first game after the Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter era. Do they find a way to get a big win? We shall see. But I think Salter could have some success coming from one of those offenses, Liberty, where they were constantly moving the ball up and down the field. Does he do the same in a Power 4 conference? We'll see. But these are the kind of matchups you look forward to. These are good first tests for the season. And it could be a big momentum boost into how your season shakes out. Other big games of note tonight, we got Auburn against Baylor. That's an 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific game on Fox. I believe Auburn is the slight favorite in that one. But if Baylor could get a win over an SEC school, that is not a bad way to start. Actually, Baylor is favored by 1.5. So very good. Not really a pick 'em, but it's close to a pick 'em there. And then if you like points, I know some of you out there like some points. 9:30 Eastern, CBS Sports Network tonight is UNLV against Sam Houston State. Both these teams have already played a game. UNLV in the Dan Mullen era had an interesting opener against Idaho State. They ended up winning, but they won 38-31 in a game they were 30.5-point favorites. So props to Idaho State for giving the Running Rebels all they can handle. And Sam Houston State, that was a rough opener for them. They lost 41-24 to Western Kentucky. The Hilltoppers were 11-19 on third down, had 506 yards, 401 through the air on 33 of 51. So Sam Houston State to give up some yards through the air. We'll see if UNLV's quarterback, Anthony Calandria, can take advantage of that. But if you like points and the over-under is 61.5, maybe this is the game you should be watching. UNLV favored right now on ESPN Bet by 9.5. So some interesting Friday night games on the docket tonight. So let's get into Saturday. And it starts noon kickoff, Texas at Ohio State, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox, big noon kickoff, and College Game Day will be there, of course. It'll be Lee Corso's final College Game Day. We'll see if he puts on the Bevo head or the Brutus the Buckeye head. And Lee Corso represents college football extremely well. He's one of those guys that is extremely going to be missed in the sport. I love watching College Game Day. I love the old days with Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. Herbstreit's still there, and the show does well with Reese Davis, Desmond Howard, Pat McAfee, and Nick Saban. But you always look forward to seeing what Corso is going to pick, the not so fast, my friends, the headgear, all those cool things. He made the sport fun. He would break down the game, but also have a little bit of comedy in there as well. And you just don't see that in this day and age in sports, where a guy can be both funny and informative. And Lee Corso was that. And I hope it's going to be a great College Game Day tomorrow. It'll be a lot of cool tributes to him, I'm sure. And that last headgear pick is going to be special. And it's a good game that they're at. I know people wish like they were at Alabama, Florida State because of Lee Corso's ties to Florida State. But if they weren't there, this is the one to be at. And, of course, rematch of last year's playoff game in the semifinals when Ohio State won 28-14. But a lot different for both these teams. We'll start with Texas. Arch Manning getting his third career start. First, of course, this year taking over for Quinn Ewers. And this is a Texas team that has 4 new starters in the offensive line. They've got to kind of move some things around, of course, with their running game, without Wisner's back, which will help their offensive attack there. And it's going to be interesting to see when you have 4 new guys in your offensive line going into Columbus. I know Ohio State has had to remake a lot of that defense. But let's remember, they're coached, the Buckeyes, on defense by Matt Patricia. So Arch Manning's had a lot of preparation, of course, from Peyton and Eli and probably Archie a little bit about how to play against pro-style defenses. But this is a really big test. And Ohio State can get after the quarterback. We'll see what kind of schemes Patricia dials up. And on the other side, you have Ohio State. Julian Sayin gets the start, sophomore quarterback. But Ohio State still has Jeremiah Smith. And that's the player that you know can be a game-changing quarterback. Like last year, Ohio State had Will Howard, and everybody thought, would it be the same? But Howard was kind of that game manager type quarterback. I don't know if Sayin's going to be that. But all you got to do is dump the ball up to Jeremiah Smith or throw a fade route and go like 55 yards for an instant big play. And I think Ohio State's got enough big plays in the mix to win this football game. I know Texas right now is a slight favorite, and this is kind of a chance for Arch Manning to have that coming out party, if you will. But I'm going to take Ohio State. To me, I think just that atmosphere is going to be a little bit tough. The noon kickoff, I think itself, could be a little tough. Both these teams are going to try to maybe be conservative early because they're different signal callers, how they play this thing out. I just think Ohio State's got some big plays in them. So I'll take the Buckeyes to win this one. And then later Saturday night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on ABC, it's LSU and Clemson. And if you love NFL draft prospects, you're going to love this matchup in the battle of quarterbacks. Garrett Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik. Klubnik was really good last season. I know he wasn't good 2 years ago taking over for Trevor Lawrence, but Clemson bringing back a lot of experience from last year, a team that really went under the radar all year, winning the ACC. Dabo Swinney's got one of his most experienced teams in a long time and taking him into the battle for Death Valley here. And it's going to be a challenge for LSU, and really big challenge for Brian Kelly. The LSU Tigers have lost 5 straight openers. They have not won an opener since Brian Kelly's been the coach. They're 0-3. They have played some tough openers, though. Florida State a couple years ago, USC. So it's not like LSU hasn't challenged themselves, and you give them credit for that. But for Garrett Nussmeier to go against this Clemson defensive line, and you look at the Tigers, Clemson Tigers, with TJ Parker and Peter Woods, they can get after the quarterback extremely well. So when you've got Clemson's defensive line against LSU's offensive line, kind of going to lean toward Clemson in that game, in that matchup. So overall, I think Klubnik can play a little bit better. Although I do like Nussmeier's ability to throw the ball out of the pocket, I think Klubnik's mobility could be a big difference in this one. So I'm going to take Dabo Swinney and Clemson to win the Battle of Death Valley and the Battle of the Tigers. And last but not least, Notre Dame at Miami. That's a Sunday kickoff, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on ABC. And this is my favorite match for the weekend. I know people are going to love Texas, Ohio State, but I love Notre Dame, Miami. Of course, everybody from the old days remembers Catholics versus convicts. And you got new quarterbacks for both these teams. CJ Carr, the young quarterback, takes over for Notre Dame from Riley Leonard. And Carson Beck's at Miami. Remember the Georgia kid who everybody thought was going to be the number 1 pick last year? Didn't have the greatest season that he could hope for. Ends up transferring to Miami. And I think this is a bigger game for the Canes than it is for the Irish. Notre Dame, I think you're going to expect some growing pains going in because of Carr not being as experienced. Now, they do have a great running attack with Jeremiah Love. I think Notre Dame's going to lean a lot on that as well as their defense. But this is a big one for the Canes because Mario Cristobal needs that defining win as a coach. He hasn't had that yet. You look at Miami under Mario Cristobal, they are 1-6 against ranked opponents. And they're the team that had Cam Ward last year, the number 1 pick in the draft, and could not win against a ranked opponent. Miami also doesn't have a lot of skill weapons that have experience outside of Beck, but you have to think Beck has to be the one to make plays and help others get better in this one because he's got the clear advantage in terms of experience over Carr. And I saw a couple weeks ago, Big Mike was talking about it on 3 and Out, which again, you can hear tomorrow morning on IE Sports Radio. And I think for Notre Dame, this stretch of the season, they have to get through it in order to have a successful year. But you got Miami, then Texas A&M, then you got Purdue, Arkansas, an SEC road game, which is never easy, and Boise State at home. Now, Boise State might look a lot easier now than it did a couple weeks ago, but that's still a chance for Boise State to make a statement. And we know the Broncos' experience usually can play up to their competition. So this is not a great first 5 weeks to kind of break in a new quarterback. So that's where they're going to have Carr just do enough to get by, give the ball to their rushing attack. And I think Marcus Freeman, I trust him as the coach more than I trust Cristobal. So I'm going to take Notre Dame on the road to get the win here. And you have our FCS game of the week because we like to look at the other guys as well. And there's a really competitive game in the Patriot League tomorrow. It's a noon kick, 9 a.m. Pacific. It is Richmond against Lehigh. Now, both these teams are ranked in the early top 25 in the FCS. Richmond is 22nd. Lehigh is 15th. This is an interesting matchup because these teams played in the playoffs last year. Lehigh got the win 20-16, and both these teams are now in the same conference. Richmond moved over from the CAA to the Patriot League, which makes this a conference game in the opener. We always love conference opening games. Like last week, we saw Iowa State play Kansas State in Farmageddon out in Ireland, with Iowa State getting the win. So you love early conference games. Both teams have pretty good quarterbacks. Richmond has a senior quarterback in Kyle Wickersham. Lehigh with Hayden Johnson. And last year in that win, Hayden Johnson completed 78% of his passes. So these are both very accurate quarterbacks at the FCS level. So I think you won't see a lot of incomplete passes in this one. So it's under the radar, good quarterback play. And then for why I think Lehigh's going to win, I love their backfield. They got a good 1-2 combo, Luke Yoder and Jaden Green. So the Mountain Hawks, who, remember, the one time I remember them from last year when they got dominated by Army, I think back in week 2. But both these teams have some successful seasons at FCS, so I think this should be a really interesting game out there. There's one game currently going on in progress. It is Army taking on Tarleton State as the Black Knights. Remember, they had that great run last season with Bryson Daly at quarterback. He's not there anymore. So how Army able to break themselves in is going to be interesting to watch. So keep an eye on Army the rest of the way and see if they can get a huge win or at least follow up last year's season with a productive season. So that is our look at college football. And again, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, Larry B., Taryn Rodriguez, they've got you covered. Taryn's actually here as well. Thank you, Taryn, for hopping in. Again, if you have anything to chat, what's your predictions? College football, baseball, all those things, feel free to bring them in the chat. I'd highly appreciate that. So let's look at baseball, and our 5 series to watch is something we do each and every week here on the network. And, of course, you can catch the Bullpen Bulletin every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern with myself, Mike Pat, and Alden K. Have a lot of fun, and especially we've only got 4 more shows left until the postseason. So it's amazing how fast the season goes. Remember, coming up this week is going to be September call-ups, and the rosters go from 26 to 28. The games start to be a lot more meaningful as each of these teams have about 30 or so games to go. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, there's not a lot of significant series this weekend. We had a lot of them good earlier in the week. Stuff like the Mets sweeping the Philadelphia Phillies, getting that NL East division at least back to being a competitive race going forward. We had there was a couple others. Padres Mariners was a fun series. Reds and Dodgers was a fun series this week. So the weekend series, not exactly great, but I guess that helps if you're looking to give baseball a break for the weekend until Labor Day Monday. But number 5, I'm going to keep it to one game in particular. It's Pirates Red Sox. Now, the series itself isn't as competitive. Boston's been great. They went 7 of 8 on a recent road trip against the Orioles and the Yankees. And the Pirates are nowhere near. I'm only throwing it in for one game tonight, coming up at the top of the hour. Paul Skeens, of course, goes for Pittsburgh. He's 8-9 with a 2.07. Boston is going to go with Peyton Toll. Now, Peyton Toll is a real interesting candidate here for the Red Sox. He is their second-ranked prospect for an MLB pipeline. He's a lefty. He's moved up 3 levels this year from Greenville to Portland to Worcester. And he's a lefty that can get up to 99 miles per hour with the fastball. He's thrown 133 strikeouts and 91 2/3 innings this season. And the Red Sox and Alex Cora made a big move today. It's not just with Toll coming up. It's the fact that they released Walker Buehler. They put him in the bullpen. He was pitching out of the bullpen for a little bit, and they released Buehler. So Alex Cora clearly showing here he's not playing around. Like, they're going to give this kid every opportunity because the Red Sox have dealt with their share of injuries in the rotation. Outside of Bayo and Crochet, there's not really that much else there. I know Giolito's been better. I know Richard Fitz is now up, but Toll's going to get an opportunity to compete for at least get some major league starts. And if he does well, you never know what he can be in a potential postseason series. So this is an interesting dynamic the Red Sox are trying. And I really like this matchup going forward. If I had to pick another one tonight, if you're talking about young pitchers, out at Citi Field, Jonah Tong makes his debut for the Mets, 7th-round pick in 2021. Tong's a guy that's kind of risen up not 2020, 2023. Tong has risen up the system dramatically. And you look at this Mets team, they swept the Phillies, but let's start Wednesday night by Nolan McLean. And Nolan McLean's been fantastic in the 3 starts he's made. 2 of them against pretty good teams, against the Mariners and the Phillies. David Stearns is using his young pitchers now after the not trading for one at the deadline. Senga's been struggling a little bit. Manai has been struggling a little bit. So I love these teams that are not playing around anymore. And I know that's a little bit easier because when you have guys if they come up with under 45 days to go in the season, they can still be Rookie of the Year eligible next year. So it's a little bit easier to do that. But when you only have about 30 games left or a little under 30 games left, you got to play the guys that are the best chances to win. And we'll see if Jonah Tong can do that. So Red Sox with Peyton Toll tonight, Mets with Jonah Tong tonight will kind of be split with number 5 and 5 matchups to watch. Number 4, we go to the NL Central. Cardinals and Reds. Now, this is an interesting game because Cincinnati is really reeling right now. They got swept for the first time this season by the Dodgers. And they are close to fading themselves, and they need a huge week because the Reds actually have the Mets coming up in a couple of weeks. Cincinnati right now is 4 games out of the wild card, and they're facing the Cardinals team that really this is their last chance to stay in it. St. Louis is 2.5 behind the Reds. Cardinals have a chance to win the season series with the Reds, which would be big for tie-breaking purposes. That game is actually underway right now. Your pitching matchup for that one is Zach Littell for Cincinnati against Matthew Liberatore. So that'll be in the next 15 minutes that game will start. Tomorrow is going to be Matthew McGreevy and Andrew Abbott. And Sunday, it's Andre Pallante against Brady Singer. That is a noon first pitch. Number 3, Seattle and Cleveland. Both these teams still have playoff chances. Seattle's chances are a little bit easier. They're trying to, of course, win the division, but in the AL wildcard race, they are still in striking distance as well and have a playoff spot as of today. Mariners are 2 games behind the Astros. Despite struggling a little bit, they've lost 6 of their last 10, although Cal Raleigh's now at 50 home runs. This is a put-up or shut-up week for Cleveland. You look at Cleveland right now, they are 5 games back. They've lost 7 of their last 10. If the Mariners win 1 game in this series, they have the tiebreaker on Cleveland. I hate to say the Guardians need a sweep, but they need at least 2 games. They're right at the 500 mark. They desperately need to get going. This is a big week for Cleveland in general. They not only have Seattle at home this weekend, they have Boston on the road in the next series. So facing back-to-back projected playoff teams, this is really Cleveland's season right here if they want to stay in it. It is George Kirby against Logan Allen tonight. That's a 7:10 first pitch. Tomorrow at 7:15, it is Logan Gilbert against Gavin Williams. And then Sunday, it is Miller for Seattle against Tanner Bybee for Cleveland. Number 2, it's an AL Central matchup. It is Tigers and Royals. Again, the Tigers are not in danger of losing the division. They're 8.5 up on Kansas City. So if the Royals, the only chance they have to stay alive in the Central, I think is a sweep. Kansas City, in terms of the wild card right now, is 3 games back. They did play better against the White Sox. They won the last 2 in that series. They've won 6 of their last 10. To go back to last week, these 2 teams played. The Tigers took 2 out of 3. And that was a big test for Detroit because they were only 3 games over against above 500 teams. So I really like the Tigers. Semi-made a statement in that one. We'll see if that continues this weekend at Kauffman Stadium. It is Chris Paddock against Seth Lugo at 8:10 Eastern tonight. Tomorrow at 7:15 is Jack Flaherty against Kolek. And at Sunday At 210, Tarek Skubal takes his 2.28 ERA to the mound against Michael Wacha. And finally, number one, it's a potential World Series preview. And I never thought we would say this going into September 1st as a potential World Series preview if you told me this back in April. Brewers Blue Jays, or as I call this, the Paul Molitor series, if you will. Milwaukee, they've been okay. They lost their last couple to the Diamondbacks. Still in a decent position in the Central, thanks to the Cubs struggling out west in San Francisco. Blue Jays, they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. Their bullpen struggled against Minnesota, but they got bailed out in a couple of those games. And very quietly, the Blue Jays lead in the AL East has shrunk a little bit. It's become a 3-team race again in the AL East. And look at Toronto's schedule the rest of the way. They have a really difficult next 12 games. 3 with the Brewers, 3 at Cincinnati, 3 at the Yankees, and then hosting the Astros. So 12 games against playoff teams or potential playoff teams. This is probably the last big test for the Blue Jays because they end the year with Baltimore, Tampa, Kansas City, Boston, and Tampa. So there is that Red Sox series at the end of the year, but it's at home. So that also helps the Blue Jays. But now potentially playing 60 of the next 9 on the road against some quality opponents. This will be a fun matchup for sure. And could this be a World Series preview? I would say the team most likely out of these two is Milwaukee. It's right now, it's just tough for me to pick an American League winner. I think Toronto is good enough, but if their bullpen's going to keep leaking holes in it, that could be a problem. Especially when these teams are so evenly matched in the American League. Like the AL, I could easily see a wild card team emerging and winning the World Series. It wouldn't be that getting to the World Series. Wouldn't be that surprising. The NL is kind of like the favorites where it's like, I think the division leaders have a huge hand, at least as of right now. The pitching matchups for this weekend tonight is Freddie Peralta going for his 16th win against Shane Bieber. Bieber's looked pretty good so far in Toronto. And I think if he can find his old stuff from Cleveland, that definitely adds another dimension to that rotation. Tomorrow it will be a 3-7 start, Quinn Priester against Kevin Gausman. And then Sunday, it is Brandon Woodruff against Max Scherzer. That is a 1:30 start. Again, there weren't a lot of great matchups this weekend. I mean, tonight, if you want to throw matchup-wise, Carlos Rodon returns to Chicago for the first time. Yankees and White Sox. Yankees have actually won their last 5 in a row, but they played bad teams, so it's hard to really trust the Yankees in that regard. Kyle Schwarber, of course, 4 home runs last night for the Phillies. He's up to 49 now in the year. I think Schwarber's the MVP in the National League. I know Ohtani's right up there as well and having another great season. Schwarber, to me, though, you look at that lineup for the Phillies, he sets the tone every day, and he's going to potentially have a 55-plus home run year. What he does in the leadoff spot, and that guy's going to get paid. He's a free agent at the end of the year. He's going to get paid by somebody this offseason, whether it's the Phillies or somebody else. So keep an eye maybe on that this weekend. And that's where baseball gets hurt by this. Braves Phillies would have been number 1 if Atlanta was actually good. Because I think when baseball made this schedule, you would think Braves Phillies at the end of August would be a really fascinating series. It's just not. And it's just been bad luck and injuries for Atlanta. Pretty much that's ruined it. So here's your standings update. We'll try to do this throughout either this show, Monday show, or the baseball show. In the AL East, Blue Jays lead the Red Sox by 3.5 and lead the Yankees by 4. In the AL Central, we mentioned Detroit 8.5 up on the Royals. And the AL West is Houston by 2 over Seattle and by 6.5 over Texas. Rangers had a big hit. Nathan Eovaldi out for the year with a rotator cuff issue. And over the last couple of days, Corey Seager undergoing an appendectomy. Rangers get a big loss with their ace and their shortstop. So I don't know how long Texas is going to hang around with those injuries. In the NL East, the Phillies lead the Mets by 5 games. Mets made up 3 of those games this week, but then lost last night, and Philly beat Atlanta, so they essentially only have gained 2 games this week. Brewers with a 6.5-game lead over the Cubs. And the NL West, the Dodgers with a 2-game lead over the Padres. Padres took a hit. Xander Bogaerts out for the rest of the year with an injury, so that's a big loss for San Diego. Your wild card race right now, Boston is a half game up on the Yankees for the first wild card spot. Yankees are number 2. Seattle is 3rd. Seattle's 2 behind both those teams in the loss column. Royals are 3 behind Seattle. Rangers are 4.5, and Cleveland is 5 back. And the NL wild card, Cubs are number 1. San Diego's game behind them at number 2. And the Mets are 3 games behind San Diego at number 3. Mets are 4 up on the Reds, and that's the only other team in the National League. There are only 7 teams with a winning record in the National League. Giants are 2 games under. They're 6 back. Diamondbacks and Cardinals are 3 games under. They're 6.5 back. So really, to be the end of wild card, unless the Giants and Diamondbacks are going on a run, it's really just between the Mets and the Reds for that last playoff spot. I think that's where baseball, and I said this on Tuesday, it kind of misses the boat. If these wild card matches will only be 1 or 2 teams chasing each other, it's kind of going to be a boring September unless divisional races really get heated up. And even then, the second place teams will make the playoffs anyway. It's just going to be about which teams don't play wild card weekend and which ones do. All depends what your opinion is on that. But that's our thoughts on baseball this week. Let's take a quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk some WNBA. We'll talk some MLS. And we'll talk some Premier League and NWSL as well. You're listening to the Primetime Preview on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all this sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. iSports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
And shout out to our great sponsors, Plant Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Plant Jerky, the jerky that is on all over the planet. Great snack for all of your weekend activities, whether you're at the beach this weekend, whether you're at a barbecue, whether you're on the couch watching some sports. Plant Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky is the go-to snack for you. And, of course, Vital Apparel, great gym wear for a great cause for mental health research. Use the code IESR to get 15% off that comfortable and inspiring gym wear. Ricky K back with you here on the Primetime Preview on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all of the sports. Just finished talking about the college football slate and the baseball slate for this weekend. If you have any predictions or what are you watching? What's on your remote control this weekend? YouTube, Twitch, X. I want to hear from you. Feel free to send those comments to interact with me throughout the show. So let us go into the world of WNBA. And people forget the WNBA season is only a couple weeks left until we get to the playoffs. So it's about crunch time for a lot of these teams in the WNBA. We had a big upset last night. The Seattle Storm were down 20-plus points to the Minnesota Lynx, and they rallied to hand the Lynx just their second home loss of the year. Now, Minnesota's going to be okay. They've got a huge lead on the number 1 seed. So Seattle was a team that desperately needed this game, and it really helped them in terms of postseason contention. Seattle pulled into the 7th spot. They are tied in the loss column with the Sparks. but they've also played 4 more games. So the Sparks have an opportunity to really make up the ground with games in hand. And that's why for every game that Seattle plays going forward is absolutely critical. So when I look at the WNBA slate this weekend, there's one team in particular that is in the spotlight. And that's the Indiana Fever. The Fever play the Sparks night out in LA. That's a 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific game. You can catch that on Ion. And then Sunday at 8:30, you can catch the Fever on NBA TV against the Golden State Valkyries. Now, why is this a big week for the Fever? They're 20-18 right now. They're in the number 6 seed. They are tied with Golden State in the loss column. The Sparks right now are 1 game back in the loss column, and they play 2 more games. So if LA gets the win tonight, that really sets themselves going forward to potentially matching Indiana. The Sparks have beaten Indiana all 3 times this year. We've talked about how the Fever are just banged up with a lot of injuries, including to Caitlin Clark. Kelsey Plum, of course, I think could be a big difference maker for LA down the stretch. They hung on to beat the Wings a couple days ago, 81-80. Paige Beckers had 44 points in that one, but Rakea Jackson was too good for LA. She had 25. Kelsey Plum had 20, and Nilo Schneider just 1-3. So Beckers was great, but that's unfortunately how poor the Wings are. Sparks have the Fever at home tonight and the Mystics at home on Sunday to wrap up their slate before 6 games in September, including 4 next week. They'll be playing every other day. So it's going to be a truncated schedule for LA. Can they rack up some wins in that time? Will be interesting. Plus, they're 7-11 at home this year. So they're really going to have to improve that home record to get into the playoffs. And then Saturday, or tomorrow, 10 Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on NBA TV, it's the Liberty against the Mercury. And I'm interested in this one from the Liberty's perspective. Liberty have gotten Brianna Stewart back in the lineup. They won last night against Washington. But at the same time, you look at this Liberty team. Sabrina Nescu's missed the last couple games with an injury. John Cole Jones out with an illness last night. We haven't seen this Liberty team at complete strength. And the Liberty and Mercury want to get out of that 4-5 because A, they would play each other in the first round, and B, it would be a semifinal matchup with the Lynx. I think those 2 teams would rather be in that 2-3, which right now would be Vegas is the 2, Atlanta is the 3, but Vegas has played 2 more games than Atlanta. So the Dream will be making up those games, I'm sure. Liberty right now are a game behind the loss column. Phoenix is tied with Atlanta for that 3 spot. Alyssa Thomas is a triple-double waiting to happen every night for Phoenix. Brianna Stewart really, I think, is the difference maker for the Liberty and makes them go. Liberty are 19-7 this year in games that Brianna Stewart plays. Now, Phoenix is 13-6 at home. So something's got to give in this matchup. I think with Stewart now back for the Liberty allows Talbot, Messerman, Johannes. You saw Isabel Harrison do a good job off the bench last night. I think having all those players out when they've had now a lot of the depth to kind of show up, and maybe that'll help them in the postseason. I've said the Liberty don't need to be the top 2 seed, but I think they have to at least get into maybe the 3 seed so they can play Vegas instead of Minnesota in a semifinal matchup. But I think those top 5, Minnesota, Vegas, Atlanta, Phoenix, and the Liberty, have really separated themselves from the pack if you're looking at postseason contenders for a WNBA title. I don't think Indiana's too banged up. Seattle's too inconsistent. And then it's between Golden State and Los Angeles for that last playoff spot as we move into September. We'll go to MLS this week. We'll give you 3 matchups, and then we'll give you a bonus since it's Leagues Cup this week. We'll start Saturday night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, as Cincy against Philly. Cincinnati needs to get a win at home. They've lost 3 straight matches in their building, and they trail Philly by 2 points for the Supporters Shield. Now, FC Cincinnati is going to get some reinforcements back. They're going to get Brenner, who is with one of their key strikers from 21 to 23. He is coming back from a loan from Udinese and Italia Serie A. So that's a big boost to Cincinnati's attack. We know how good they are at scoring. But Philly's great on defense. Like, you got to love what the Union have done this year. They've only allowed 26 goals, which is the fewest in the league, and just 1 goal or fewer in 3 of the last 4 matches. So while Philly can put goals in the back of the net, they are really good at preventing you from scoring as the opposition. So this should be a really fun matchup. Especially, I think it's more of a prove-it game for Cincy, trying to get themselves back on track. Then you have Minnesota against Portland. That's Saturday, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. Minnesota has taken a little bit of a hit. They're one of their top forwards, Tani Oluwaseya, is at Villarreal now. So they're going to have to try to make up that production and get some goals. Portland, the Timbers right now are 6th. They are 6 points behind Seattle for 4th, which will get them a home matchup in the MLS playoffs. And the Timbers, I love what they're coming off good momentum. They had a 0-0 draw against San Diego. Of course, is number 1 on the table. So something to keep an eye on there. You could bring up, there's one I thought about, and that one would be the LAFC San Diego matchup. That's the Sunday really late game, 10:45. And of course, Sun coming over to LAFC has been a major difference, but San Diego, of course, has been the best team all year at 53 points. We'll see if that plays a factor. But I decided to go with Red Bulls and Columbus for the third matchup. Red Bulls are tied with Chicago for the final playoff spot in the East. Columbus has not played well lately. They've come up with a loss to New England last week. Their offense hasn't scored multiple goals in 3 straight. They have just 1 point in their last 3 matches, and they are 7th in the East right now. So they are slowly slipping. Wilfred Nancy's club going to get a little bit more consistency to kind of avoid being on that playoff bubble. Because if the Red Bulls get a win here, that would really make things interesting. And that's Saturday, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. And then the big one, the Leagues Cup final that is Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, is Seattle Sounders against Inter Miami. Seattle has been red hot ever since getting into the FIFA Club World Cup. They've kind of found something with this team. They beat the LA Galaxy 2-0 in the semifinals. Pedro de la Vega and Osasi de Rosario had goals in that one. Rosario has been big for this team. Their offense has scored multiple goals in 5 of the last 7 matches. So Seattle's starting to find that rhythm offensively, and they're at home, which makes this a lot of fun for that crowd. Meanwhile, Miami, they needed all 3 goals in the final 15 minutes, including 2 from Lionel Messi, one of them being a penalty shot, to beat Orlando 3-1 in the Florida rivalry. Miami has played extremely well, 12-3-5 in their last 20 games. After an inconsistent stretch, they found that consistency again. This is big for Lionel Messi. We all know Messi loves the trophies. He's yet to win one with Miami. Can he get that significant club title under his belt here in the United States? These two teams don't have any familiarity with each other either. They have not played since 2022. So that creates for a little bit of fun here. You're talking about Seattle against Miami. So if you're looking for a fun something to watch with a title on the line, that might be the one you watch. So keep those matchups in mind for MLS this weekend. As far as NWSL, we have 3 games to look at. And let us start with tonight, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Prime Video. That is Orlando against Gotham. Neither of these teams are playing well. Orlando and Gotham have not won a game this month. They've had some ties, some losses thrown in. The only win Gotham has had in August is a Champions League group play match. And Orlando has got to find some scoring from other places. Barbara Banner, their top scorer, is out. She had eight goals this season. Gotham, of course, we all know about Esther Gonzalez, but they can't seem to get any wins. So something's got to give in this matchup, and Gotham desperately needs to get some points and get some wins. If you look at the standings right now, that matchup in Orlando tonight, Gotham is tied with the North Carolina Courage for the final playoff spot and just 1 point ahead of Angel City. So things are trying to get a little bit tight here for Gotham FC. Can they get a win? We shall see. Then we have later tonight, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific on Paramount Plus. It is the Seattle Reign against the San Diego Wave. The Reign have been scoring goals in bunches, 8 goals in their last 4 games, 1 win, 2 draws, and 1 loss in that stretch. San Diego hasn't scored the last 2 games, but you look at their team this year, it's more about defense. That's led them to a +9 goal differential, which is also helped them be third. This is 6 versus 3 right now in the standings. Seattle at 6, San Diego at 3. And then Kansas City against the Courage in North Carolina. Kansas City right now is going to win the league title, get that NWSL shield. They have been absolutely outstanding. They've yet to concede a goal this month. Temwa Chawinga has been a big player for their offense. She has a goal in 3 of the last 4 games. And the Courage, well, they've gotten points, but they're not getting wins. 3 ties and 1 loss in their last 4. Again, tied got them for the final spot. And their last match, they had a 3-3 draw against Chicago Stars, but they get balanced scoring. They had goals from 3 different players. Manaka Matsukobo, Tyler Lussey, and Jaden Shaw got those big goals You also have Sunday at 4 o'clock, Bay FC against the Washington Spirit. Tough one for Trinity Rodman. We'll get into her later. Get into what happened with her boyfriend today at the U.S. Open, but maybe she'll have some goals in that one to kind of make up for that. And then English Premier League. Here's some matches you should watch for in England this week. The big one, of course, is Sunday morning, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific on USA Network. It is Liverpool against Arsenal. Both these teams are playing well right now. Liverpool's more so playing well with their offense. They have 7 goals in the first 2 games. They've surrendered 4 already. And they actually needed a goal from 16-year-old Rio Ngomaha. He is 16 years old. He got the goal at the last possible minute in stoppage time to beat Newcastle in their last match. But this Liverpool team has a lot of firepower. And this is a chance for Arsenal to make a significant statement. They had 5 goals against Leeds in their last match, 2 from Jurriën Timber and 2 from Victor Gyökeres. These 2 teams have played the last 2 times to 2-2 draws. And this is a home game for Liverpool. So that's what matters, I think, in this one for Arsenal. Can they get at least a point on the road to keep that confidence going? We also have Sunderland against Brentford. That is Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern on USA Network. Brentford hasn't allowed a goal in their last 2 matches. They're playing well defensively. They beat Bournemouth, who we'll get into in a second, in the Carabao Cup. And Sunderland, meanwhile, they lost 2-0 to Burnley in their last match, and they also lost a penalty shootout to Huddersfield Town. So that's an interesting match there. Tottenham will take on Bournemouth on Peacock. That is Saturday at 10 a.m. Tottenham has been pretty good. They made a statement against Man City last week, picked up a 2-0 win. They've outscored opponents 5-0 in their first 2 matches. Bournemouth got a win in their last Premier match against the Wolves. Marcus Tavernier had a goal in the 4th minute. Bournemouth also was competitive with Liverpool in that first game, was 2-2 late until Liverpool got a couple of goals. Your other matches this week, we got Chelsea against Fulham. We have the Wolves against Everton, Leeds against Newcastle, and a really important one tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific on Peacock. It is Man City against Burnley. Well, not Man City, Man United. Man United's got to get some wins, man. This manager, Amorim, he's in big trouble. They're not playing well, and more importantly, they lost to a team called Grimsby Town in the Carabao Cup. That Man City right now, Man United right now isn't winning anything. This is a premier franchise. This is like the Yankees and the Cowboys of the English Premier League. So they are in desperate need to get a win. You look at Burnley, they've got 3 points on the season. They're looking for their 3rd straight win. So Burnley's got a lot of momentum right now, but can they go to Old Trafford and get a win? If they do, I don't know how long that Man U manager is going to have his job, but only 3 games into the year. So that'll be something to monitor in the Premier League on tomorrow. Your Sunday matches, besides Liverpool, also we got Brighton against Man City, Nottingham Forest against West Ham, Aston Villa against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, I think, is still looking for the win. They have played a tough schedule, though. We'll say that. Even though they've got 2 draws, I mean, they played the Nottingham Forest. Maybe they should have got a point at home, but they did tie Chelsea to begin the season. So see if they can get a win on the board there. We'll take one more time out. We'll take a quick word from Larry B. And after we come back, we'll talk some U.S. Open out in Queens. Not a good day for the American men. We'll look ahead at tonight's matches as well to get you set for the weekend, and then give you the update in auto sports as well as the Women's Rugby World Cup. You're listening to the Primetime Preview on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all those sports. We'll wrap up episode 12 after a short break.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the final segment of the Primetime Preview here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. Again, missed the top of the show. You missed any portion of the last few weeks. This is the last time we're going to be doing Primetime Preview. I'll be joining Adam Karnick on the opening series beginning on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So instead of previewing the week, we're going to recap the weekend that was. So it's a different twist to the show. I definitely recommend you tuning in. I think Ab and I have some really good plans for the show. So as we say goodbye to another installment of a show I've done here, we look forward to a new chapter that we're going to have over there as well. So let's talk some U.S. Open. Big into the tennis. It's going to be usually a fun Labor Day weekend in Queens. I don't envy the people going to the Met game or trying to go to tennis during this match because the traffic is really bad. That's why you take public transit when you can. The only match going on right now on a grandstand, Emma Navarro, the 10 seed. She's up 5-3 in the first set on Barbara Krejcikova. Krejcikova has been usually that player that she's usually dangerous in slams, but Navarro has been one to watch over the last year and a half for the U.S. women. So something to keep an eye on there. Your matches that have gone final earlier today, Elena Rybakina put up a dominant 6-1, 6-2 win over the Brit Emma Raducanu. Raducanu she's won a U.S. Open before, but she's not played well against some of the top players this season. So dominant win for the 9 seed there. We had an upset in both the women and the men's side. For the women, Vondrousova from the Czech Republic, she beat the 7 seed Jasmine Paolini in straight sets. So Vondrousova, a very dangerous player in this draw. She gets a big win. And a tough one, as we said, for Ben Shelton, the 6 seed. This is a guy that Josh Ritter was on, and I've talked about him before. If I wasn't going to pick Sinner or Alcaraz in the men's side, Shelton would have been the pick. He got kind of screwed with the draw because he would have had to play Alcaraz in the quarterfinals. Then he got screwed today by an injury. He was up 2-1 on the Frenchman Adrian Manarino. Hurts his shoulder, has to take a timeout during a game in the 4th set. Manarino wins the 4th set 6-4, and then Shelton ends up withdrawing as Manarino was in the bathroom. He had a knock on the stall, I think, some story like that. And even Manarino said after the match that if that match continued, Shelton would have won. So I think even the Frenchman knew that's just a really tough blow. And the American men took even more of a hit earlier today. Francis Tiafoe, who usually can be a factor in these majors, he ends up losing in straight sets to Struff from Germany. He had a chance to kind of get there in the 3rd set tiebreak, just couldn't do it. So Tiafoe is out. So fate lies in a couple of men. Tommy Paul almost lost last night. He was 2 sets up on Nuno Borges, ended up going to 7-5 in the 5th. Paul is on the center side of the draw. And I think Tiafoe, even if he would have won this one, would have probably had to play Djokovic. I don't know if he would have won that match, but we shall see. So it should be an interesting one coming up. So the matches that will take place tonight on Arthur Ashe in just about 15 minutes or so. Djokovic takes on Cam Norrie. Cam Norrie's been dangerous in these majors, especially since the French. He's played well. And then Taylor Townsend, she had the big win over Ostapenko the other day, and there was some drama after that match. Townsend takes on the 5 seed Mira Andreeva. So it could be a big win for Townsend tonight on his show court. And then on Armstrong, it is the top seed in the women's side, Arina Sabalenka against Leylah Fernandez. Fernandez played in Armstrong this week. She played with Venus in doubles. Remember, Venus made her return to the U.S. Open scene this week. She lost first round in Mokova, the 11th seed. And then it'll be Kim from Switzerland against the 4 seed Taylor Fritz. I think Fritz still has a good shot to make the semis. He's been the most consistent American male of the bunch. I think he plays well on the hard courts. He's a guy who has made it to a final here. If there is somebody that's going to break that American curse, remember, no American male has won a Grand Slam since Andy Roddick in 2003. So Fritz could be the one to do that. The other match we didn't get to, at least the day session matches on Ashe, Carlos Alcaraz with his new buzzed haircut defeated the 32 seed Darderi from Italy in straight sets. And Jessie Pegula, the 4 seed, she needs a big week because she has the points from the finals to defend last year, and she's had a rough summer. She beats Victoria Azarenka 6-1, 7-5. Azarenka, of course, great accomplishments in slams in the past. That wasn't an easy third-round match, but Pegula got it done. Your matches for tomorrow. On the day session is Freck from Poland, the 28 seed, against Coco Gauff. Gauff has admitted, the pressure's been tough to handle. I mean, pressure builds expectations with pressure and things like that. She talked about pressure as a privilege. But Coco's had an interesting summer. She's not played her best. And she's had some really tough matches with Tomljanovic from Australia and Donna Vekic in the last couple matches to start. So can Coco get it done as a 3 seed? We'll see. And then after that, it'll be Yannick Sinner, the top seed in the men's side, against the Canadian 27 seed Denis Shapovalov. He can be hit or miss depending on how consistent he is. Your night match is Kalinskaya, 29 seed for the women, against the 2 seed Iga Swiatek. And then it's Bublik from Kazakhstan, the 23 seed in the men's side, against Tommy Paul. Bublik's been red hot. And I don't know if Tommy Paul, after playing that long match, of course, he had a foot issue this summer. Will he have enough to get through? Hopefully the crowd can get him through that match. But if Tommy Paul loses tomorrow, it's going to be when he wishes he closed that match out last night a lot quicker than he did. On Armstrong, it's the Battle of Italians tomorrow morning. Musetti, the 10 seed, against Caboli, the 24 seed. It'll be Kazakina from Australia, the 15 seed. Naomi Osaka, she's seeded, and she's playing pretty well. So Osaka, the former U.S. Open champion, in action tomorrow, the 23rd seed. And then at night, really fun match on the men's side. It's the 3 seed Alexander Zverev against Felix Auger-Aliassime. And then Hadid Maya on the women's side, the 18 seed from Brazil, against Maria Sakkari from Greece, who's finally started to put it together. She's had a couple of rough years. On grandstand, it's Miskova against Mukova, battle of the Czech women. And then it's Wong from the Hong Kong against the 15 seed Andrei Rublev. So that's your matches tomorrow. And then Monday, when Adam and I are back, we'll look ahead to the second week. And again, I think Sinner and Alcaraz the favorite on the men's side, and the women, it could go either way. I said last week that Swiatek is the favorite. I still think she is. Sabalenka, got to see her play some consistency. And I know Coco's won here, but I wonder if the pressure of playing in this slam is going to cost her at some point. I mean, she hasn't looked her best, but there's a long way to go, I think, in the second week, and she's got an opportunity. Now to our Auto Sports segment. NASCAR begins their playoff run. They will go to Darlington this week for the Cookout Southern 500. That is 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific on Sunday. We are down to 16 drivers. Now they will play 3 more races, and then we'll go down to 12 drivers. So it's not one playoff race. There's 3 of them. So we'll still have a long way to go in the NASCAR season. Denny Hamlin's the one to watch here. He's won 3 times. He's got 4 top 5s and 5 top 10s, 8 starts at Darlington. Keep an eye on him and William Byron. They were 1-2 on this track. Chase Briscoe, of course, won last year here. If you're looking for a sleeper, probably Ross Chastain. He's 11th right now, and he has actually raced well at Darlington. He's been 11th or higher 5 of those last 8 starts in Darlington. So maybe Ross Chastain sneaks in there, gets a nice start to this first round of playoffs, if you will. The IndyCar season will come to a close this weekend in Nashville. It's the Borgata Bourbon Music City Grand Prix. We know Alex Palou has already won the title, so there's no really drama there. The only drama left on the table is the Rookie of the Year race between Lewis Foster and Robert Schwartzman. Foster leads by 8 points, and all Foster's got to do is finish ahead of Schwartzman. Here's the problem. Not really a problem, but why it's not exactly a certainty. Foster's only finished ahead of Schwartzman 9 times in 16 races. So it's really 50-50. I'm going to go with Foster, but again, doesn't matter at that point. There's one streak significantly on the line for Team Penske. It's Josef Newgarden. Now, Josef Newgarden has won at least 1 time in the last 10 years. He has not won this year. It's been a rough go for Penske. They've only had 1 driver win this year. So Newgarden's personal streak on the line. To get it done in Nashville, we're going to find out. But if you're looking for it, no, there's no title on the line because the title's already set. There's still some drama in IndyCar this week to pay attention to. Formula One, we have the Dutch Grand Prix. That is on Sunday in the Netherlands. Lando Norris, another great practice session today. He also won last year on this track. He leads Oscar Piastri, his teammate, by 9 points. Maybe Max Verstappen has a good push here. He's not had a big season compared to years past. So that should be a lot of fun. Then you have the NHRA Nationals at Indianapolis this week. So we'll have more on that on Monday. And then last but not least, we have the Women's Rugby World Cup. And that's going on out in England. Here's what we got going on right now. The USA women will play Australia tomorrow at 2:30. This is a big one for the U.S. I know everybody's only played one match so far. We'll have group play again next week. The USA do not have a point, along with Samoa in Group A. Australia and England right now have 5 points. In Group B, Canada and Scotland are tied. New Zealand and Ireland are tied in Group C, and South Africa has 5 points. France has 4 in Group D. Again, and what's fun about this, when you look at the leaders, as I just mentioned, none of them play each other this week. I think they're all going to play each other next week in that last round of group play. So I like rugby in the Olympics, so I think this is, if you're looking for some under the radar sport, I think the Rugby World Cup is going to be one you want to watch. That's our show for this week, and well, that's our primetime preview. Our previews have come to a close. It's been a lot of fun getting a chance to do this show for the last 12 episodes with you guys. Again, I'm not going anywhere. We're going to do a different show with the great Adam Karnick on Monday. It should be a lot of fun. It should be a great college football weekend, the first big one on the calendar. Excited to get to that football routine again and watch some games. I love Texas Ohio State. Arch Manning against the Buckeyes. And an emotional moment for League 42 on game day. LSU Clemson, battle of the NFL draft quarterbacks. We got Notre Dame, Miami, and their rivalry renewed. Again, Monday night, Bill Belichick makes his North Carolina coaching debut against TCU. How's Gio Lopez in that new-look Carolina offense? We're going to see what happens. Baseball goes to September. Pennant races galore. Not great races, but there's still some that at least individual milestones to watch throughout the last month of the year. WNBA, we're down just a few weeks left to the postseason. We got MLS in form, NWSL, Premier League underway. We're going to have Around the World in 80 Goals on Monday's show with Adam. That should be a global look at soccer. We'll look back at the weekend that was in New York at the U.S. Open. Do we have any big upsets? We've already had a lot of drama on the court throughout the last few weeks. But will something happen? NASCAR's playoff gets started. IndyCar comes to a close. Formula One's down to the last 10 or so races in the year. There's still a lot of drama in sports. Be sure to follow us on X, TikTok, YouTube at iSports Radio for all the latest in sports. We got Second Teaming with Big Mike every Tuesday. We have Week Mania with Brian Tarrant on Wednesdays. And then Thursdays, we have Fourth and Fun with Glenn Ritter. So that's our lineup for the 4 days here at the network. And of course, tomorrow morning, 3 and out, Larry Beat, Karen Rodriguez get you set for the weekend in college football and the weekend in the NFL as well. If the NFL starts Thursday, they'll have a lot of words on Micah Parsons and the Packers. Jerry Jones can't get out of his own way like usual. Thanks to our sponsor, Planet Jerky, free and brisket beef jerky, Vital Apparel, for all the support. Use the code IESR, get 15% off your purchase for gymwear for a great cause. And again, Planet Jerky, the great snack to have while watching sports this week. So Larry B and our entire iSports Radio family, I'm Ricky Clay, saying a great Labor Day weekend. Enjoy the sport. See you back here Monday.